Hello and welcome to Wildcat Week as we bring you the best of Indiana Wesleyan University sports, highlights, and updates. I'm Tim Tedeschi. To get things started, the Indiana Wesleyan track and field team held their only home meet of the season at the Polar Bear Invitational on Saturday, March 25th. Wildcats achieved 6 NAIA standards, with 3 coming from the men and 3 coming from the women. For the men, sophomore Brennan Coil finished second in shot put with a throw of 15.67 meters. Brennan also finished first in discus with a throw of 51.06 meters. Also for the men, freshman Cameron Locke finished second with a jump of 7.08 meters. And for the women's side, senior Bethany Bailey finished first in the pole vault with a height of 3.79 meters. Senior Corrine Melvin finished first in the 100-meter dash with a time of 12.15 seconds. And sophomore Jalen Krantz finished first in 100-meter hurdles with a time of 14.91 seconds. And joining me now to talk about a very successful weekend is sophomore Brennan Coil and senior Corrine Melvin. Guys, thank you for joining us here on Wildcat Week. We can first just talk a little bit about what it's like having a few meets now in outdoor season, that transition from indoor to outdoor, and even having good weather here at the Polar Bear. What was that like for you guys?
I think it was crazy because my freshman and sophomore year, we actually didn't have the Polar Bear because it snowed, which was like terrible. But it was super nice weather. It was a little windy, but it kind of fluctuated as the time went. But it was super nice and just made me smile, honestly, for my senior year.
Yeah, for me, coming from a not so good indoor season, it was really nice to have 2 meets outdoor where it was nice and sunny. And I know last year at the Polar Bear, I threw discus at, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night under the lights. So sunshine or throwing at night in the rain, I'll take sunshine any day.
And you both achieved NAIA B standards during that meet. Can you talk a little bit more about your goals for the rest of the season, especially with the NAIA standards in mind?
Yeah, well, I've already qualified, so at this point it's just about building on what I've already achieved and just trying to reach my goal, which is 55 meters for discus this year and 16.5 meters for shot. So I've already met the goal, so now I can just relax and try to get better.
My goals are to hit 11.8 in the 100 and the 200 just to get below 24. So it's awesome just to hit a B standard and get that out of the way, because your senior year, it feels like can be eternity or it can be done super fast. So it's just scary to not hit that standard possibly at the end and the anticipation, but now I feel like I don't have anxiety and I can just go out there and run my race that God made out for me. So.
I was going to ask you, Corrine, what's it been like in your senior season? Is there a little bit of a different mentality to that, or what have you been enjoying and looking forward to going forward?
Well, I'm sad, obviously, but I think it's to make the time, just make best of the time that I have left, and just the relationships I have on the team and everything. I think this team in general is just God-centered, which is pretty awesome. A lot of our girls pray with other teammates before our races, and being able to pray as a team together before our races and everything. So being able to just finish out strong as much as possible, and anything that God wants me to do or what he puts on my heart, just to be able to do that and talk to other teammates and my teammates too. So just being able to stay Christ-centered through it all. And if I get injured and something happens, I want to just make sure that I be the best teammate on my team that I could be. So.
And Brennan, I wanted to ask you, shot put and discus isn't usually something that people go to as a first choice for a sport, and it's not as well known. So can you talk a little bit about how you even got into throwing?
Well, in high school, I played 3 sports. I played soccer, basketball, and then my sophomore year, I decided I want to try something different. And my high school coach at the time saw me, and he's like, hey, you should throw for me. So I was like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'll try it. And I was also a runner at the time too. So I ran the 400, and then I would throw. And at the beginning, I was kind of average. But once senior year came and soccer and basketball were done, it just took off. And I went to state and placed 7th in the Ohio D3 men's shot put. And then I realized I have something here. and I'd never really lifted before, so last year was kind of a shock. I came to Indiana Wesleyan, started lifting, I got really big, and then throwing just took off, and now I love it. I would never go back to running.
And can you both talk about just what your favorite part is of the competing aspect of track and field? Because it's a little different where it's individual but also team-based. So what's your favorite part of competing as a track and field athlete?
You can take this one.
I think you get the best of both worlds. You're a team sport and you can be on a relay and it's completely team-centered. But then as an individual, our scores on where we are in a meet, like in conference, if someone gets first, you get 10 points. That's also individual, and you're working on your own time and possibly even your own place, but at the same time, you're contributing to your team. So I think it is different because most people don't see that or feel that or understand that. But no matter what, we can cheer each other on as a team. One time when I ran, I cheered for a freshman. Her name is Rachel Gibson. We were both in the 200, and she was trying to hit A standard for NAI indoor. And I actually yelled at her in a race. I was behind her because she's super fast. But yeah, and just like yelling at her made her actually get A standard, and she hit it like right on. So it was just doing things like that where you can be like sometimes people can be self-centered, but I think our team in general is selfless in those ways.
And very quickly, you have the Hanover Invitational coming up this weekend. What are you looking forward to with this meet coming up?
I just want to build on my marks from last week. Hopefully, I mean, it doesn't have to be a big improvement, but any improvement is what I would want to see. And just a solid meet.
Also, this will be my second meet because I was not injured, I was sick. I still am sick a little bit, but hopefully just continue as I recover through that sickness and seeing different technique-wise coming out of the blocks what I can do, and being able to just run our first 4x1, which will be super exciting to see how that goes. We have a few people injured and a few people still sick, but no matter what, we have some really fast girls this year, and so we actually have a really great shot of hitting A standard. So.
All right, well, thank you so much for stopping by, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, once again, for track and field is the Hanover Invitational on April 1st. This meet will be held in Hanover, Indiana. When we come back, the baseball team had a couple of tough losses this past week. We'll sit down with baseball head coach Rich Benjamin. Don't go away. Welcome back to Wildcat Week. The baseball team continued conference play when they hosted Bethel College on Wednesday, March 29th. Wildcats couldn't get anything going until a lone run came in the third inning. By that time, the Wildcats trailed 5-1. The Wildcats ended up falling to the Pilots by a final score of 8-2. Freshman Jordan Wharton went 1 for 3 with a walk and an RBI. Sophomore Caleb Eater also went 1 for 4, including a home run and an RBI. Earlier in the week, the Wildcats hosted Huntington University in a doubleheader on Tuesday, March 28th. In Game 1, the Foresters scored the game-winning run in the second inning and added on runs in 4 straight innings to beat the Wildcats by a final score of 9-0. The Wildcats were led by freshman Grant Thompson, who went 2 for 3. Senior Brandon Schaefer also went 1 for 3 with a stolen base. And in Game 2, Andrew Breitenbach gave the Wildcats a 1-0 lead with an RBI single in the third inning. Take a look at that here. The Wildcats would then strand 3 runners on base to end the inning, and then the Foresters shut out the Wildcats after that and eventually won by a final score of 2-1. Sophomore Andrew Breitenbach led the Wildcats by going 1 for 4 with the lone RBI in the game. Freshman Hayden Castor also went 2 for 4 in the game. And this week, Brandon Schaefer was named NAIA Player of the Week. Schaefer hit .480 with 2 home runs and 2 doubles in 6 games last week, helping the Wildcats go 5-1 on the week. Well, after a tough week against Huntington and Bethel, but also some productive games against Grace, I'm joined now by head coach Rich Benjamin. And Coach, let's talk about Brandon Schaefer first. He's been your offensive leader and has, looking at his overall stats, hitting .370, 5 homers, 28 RBIs. What have you thought of his job really pacing that offense?
Yeah, I mean, he's been really consistent for us. He hasn't given away very many at-bats. He's really he's cut down on strikeouts. He's upped his walks. His hard contact percentage is up. And he's had some really big at-bats for us, and he's done a really nice job.
And looking forward, or looking back, before those games against Huntington and Bethel, you played 4 against Grace, went 3-1 against them, including a game where you won 27-5, scored 17 runs in just 3 innings, 2 grand slams in that game. Can you talk about what that's like to have a game like that? Obviously, it's just one in many, but what's it like to give confidence to the offense?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like, there was quite a few mistake pitches in that game that we were able to take advantage of, and so we've showed that we're capable of hitting mistakes hard and swinging with intent and those type of things. And so, we just got to move from that when we see better pitching, continue to hunt mistakes, but in the same respect, hit behind runners a little bit better, do some things that, help us get in some plus counts. And so, we're just a young club, continue to work in those areas.
You had a 3-game win streak there with the 3 wins against Grace, and then 3-game losing streak against Huntington and Bethel. But that's kind of the nature of this Crossroads League season. There's going to be ups and downs. So what's your mentality, and how do you feel about where the team is at this point in the Crossroads League season?
Sure. Yeah. There's not really there's not going to be an undefeated team win the Crossroads League. With weather and so forth, and 27 games, and roughly a 6-week period. And then once you get backed up, you're playing 6 games in 5 days. Most of it's 9-inning baseball. There's going to be some ups and downs, when it comes to the game itself. And so, I think, for us, we're very young. I think we've had 19 guys play this year that it's their first year within our program. And so there's some really good foundational things in place. There's good talent. There's ability. And they do some things really well that are plus that would matter, like on the national tournament level. And for us to continue to grow as a team and to put ourselves in position to win a league, we've just got to develop more ways to score and more ways to defend and some of those type of things to based on the weather and who you're seeing that day, that type of thing. So we just got to be more multidimensional with that, and that comes with time, And so with a young club, you kind of focus on the foundational stuff first, make sure that's in place, and then once you see that's in place, you can begin to build from there. And so, with running 5-6 freshmen out there a day, and a couple sophomores, and then a senior, and 1 junior, that youth sometimes can be exposed. And so, the encouraging part is, we see like with our sophomore class. With both Brayton Box and Kyle Hall and Caleb Eater, a tremendous job. They're having a really productive sophomore year, and you can just see the progression from the year 1 to year 2 and how they're doing, and we're very hopeful that we'll see that continued trend with the freshmen that we have now, because they are wired the right way.
Looking at the Crossroads League standings, you're right in the middle of the pack there, 2 games back. Obviously, still a lot of baseball to play, but I was looking, and you have played the second most games in the league. You've played 34. Some teams have played only 21, 22, and some of that is due to weather. But how important is that to just have more experience just in this season going forward in the Crossroads League season?
It's big, for us, the college game, if you play 55 in the regular season, and if you go deep into a postseason, you probably get 10 more games, 10 to 15. So if you play 60, 65 games in a season, hitters will get somewhere between 200 and 220 at-bats. That sounds like a lot. It's a really small sample size. If you get an opportunity to play at the professional level and you go to the lowest level of rookie ball, man, they want to see a guy get 600, 700, 800 at-bats before they make a decision on who he is as a player. And oftentimes as coaches and as players, we're having to make decisions on who a guy is and where he's at based on 30 at-bats or 100 or 120. And that's not an easy task or necessarily the most efficient way to do it. And so for us, we look at it like playing as many games as possible, getting the full 55 innings is a big deal, especially with a young club, because, for a player to go and get another 4 to 6 at-bats, a pitcher to throw a big inning out of the bullpen, or a freshman to get another start, those are separators. And so it has to be a marathon, not a sprint with the game that we play. Baseball is a game that has a lot of moving parts, where in basketball, if the center and the point guard are your 2 best players, they play every game. Sometimes our best player is a kid on the mound, and he's out there 1 day a week. And so you have to learn to play over some of those things, and then and the game changes dramatically. You know, you see a different type of pitcher. You don't see the same guy twice, and you have to learn different ways to approach that guy and do those things well. And it takes a lot of reps to become the best version of yourself. It doesn't happen overnight. I think we've probably created a culture, and I think the adults have done this in the travel scene and stuff, where, you know, I think it's the American way of wanting that instant satisfaction results, and that's just not where we are, and baseball doesn't allow that. So I think playing those extra games and getting a lot of reps under our belt will be huge for our young guys.
Well, thank you so much for coming in, Coach. Next up for the Wildcats will be on Friday, March 31st, when they travel to Spring Arbor to face off against the Cougars. That game will be at approximately 3 p.m. Well, when we come back, head coach Steve Babinski will come by to talk about the softball team's start to the Crossroads League season, so stick around. Welcome back to Wildcat Week. The softball team hosted the Cougars of St. Francis to Wildcat Field for a doubleheader on Wednesday, March 29th. In Game 1, Sarah Kreitzer hit an RBI triple to left field to give the Wildcats a 1-0 lead. Immediately following, Alex Springer hit an RBI single to push the lead to 2-0 for the Wildcats over the Cougars. Pitcher Casey Carson was dominant on the mound all game long, and in the top of the third inning, she threw just 3 pitches to record all 3 outs. The Wildcats beat the Cougars by a final score of 2-0. Senior Casey Carson threw a complete game, allowing only 3 hits and striking out 4. Also, senior Sarah Kreitzer went 1 for 3 with that RBI triple and a run scored. In Game 2, the Wildcats scored 1 run in each of the first 5 innings to lead 5-0. The Cougars scored 2 runs in the 6th, but it was not enough, and the Wildcats beat the Cougars by a final score of 5-2. Casey Carson went 3 for 4 in the game with a double and a run scored. Junior pitcher Carly Weaver pitched 5 shutout innings, allowing 5 hits and striking out 8 in the win. Casey Carson was also named the NAIA Player of the Week. Carson had an average of .633 this week with 7 home runs, 4 doubles, 20 RBIs, and 15 runs scored while leading the Wildcats. They went 5-3 last week, so congratulations to Casey Carson on that Player of the Week honor. Joining me now to talk about the sweep of St. Francis is softball head coach Steve Babinski. Coach, thanks for stopping by, and let's talk about Casey Carson to begin with. She is dominant on the mound, dominant at the plate, just has astronomical numbers. What does she mean to this team?
She's a pretty special player. We're glad she's in our dugout and we don't have to face her. She's kind of on a different planet at times. So having a phenomenal year last year, she was a first-team NAIA All-American, and she's picked up right where she left off.
And looking at those games against St. Francis, first one pretty tight, and then in the second game able to kind of push that lead early and then hold on to it. And in this Crossroads League season, there's ups and downs. You split against Grace, and then now on a 2-game win streak. What's it like to keep up that grind in the Crossroads League season going forward?
The grind is real. We are officially a third of the way through. We played 36 games in the Crossroads League, and we're 12 games in. The grind is real. There's no more fooling each other. We've seen each other a lot over the last few years, and so it's more about who can be cleaner on any given day. So yesterday, the wind played a huge factor. So scoring 1 run in every inning in the first 5, it was a combination of just playing the game really well, using our outs for quality, and when we do that, we're really hard to beat because we can manufacture some runs and then we can put runs up in a hurry with home runs and things like that. So the grind is real. We've got a lot more life and a lot more games to play. So hopefully we'll just continue grinding away better than our opponents.
And this team is really well built in that strong offensively, strong pitching, and strong defense. You have right now. I looked 5 players batting over 400 right now, and a total of 13 batting over 300. And can you just talk about the offensive output and just the mindset that this team has offensively?
Offensively, we do a really good job of slowing the game down by helping them tactically and getting them to understand situations and what they're looking for to succeed in. Our goal as a coaching staff is to set them up for success, and then it's up to them to produce. So our hats are off to them to listen and buy in to what we're kind of preaching. But when it comes down to it, they're the ones with the bats, they're the ones in the box. And so offensively, we believe that we're never out of a game, and we're always the team to beat. We want other teams to try to stop us and not having us worry about what another team's doing.
And looking on the other side of the pitching staff, Casey Carson, we already talked about her, but Carly Weaver isn't having a bad season either. 9-2 right now, 2.81 ERA. What does that mean for you to know that your 2 starters can really go the distance nearly every game, and the offense can relax because they can take care of it on the mound?
That's right. They're special. Both of them are aces, and we have a third pitcher who's also an ace, and they're enough different that they complement each other in their strengths. And if there's an opportunity where another team has found out one of their weaknesses, we can make a switch, and it's a completely different pitching style, which is really, really, really fun. And it's great to have 2 aces in your back pockets.
And could you just talk about some other players that have really stepped up big over the last few weeks in the Crossroads League season?
Absolutely. I'm going to leave out a few, but Lauren Buckley, one of the fastest girls in the Crossroads League, she's just been a hard person to keep off the bases. So she's been huge to our offense. Kristen Exposito, Alex Springer, Sarah Kreitzer, basically the 2 through 4 in our lineup. You look all up and down, and their RBIs are through the roof, in addition to Casey Carson for sure. And then basically our 5 through 9 in our lineup, typically, they're finding ways to score. And sometimes it's traditional double, then a base hit, but other times it's a battle, then drawing a walk, then having a good dirt read to get to second on a wild pitch, and then figuring out a way to get base to base. And when we can get scoring from our 5 through 9, then yeah, I feel like we're unbeatable at that point.
Well, thank you so much, Coach, for stopping in. You have Goshen next, and good luck to you this weekend.
Thank you.
Once again, next up for the Wildcats will be on Friday, March 31st, when they welcome Goshen to Wildcat Field for a doubleheader. Those games will be at approximately 5 and 7 p.m. Well, that's all we have for you this week on Wildcat Week. If you'd like to see more, you can visit our website at wiwutv.com to see past episodes and be able to connect with us online. Once again, that's wiwutv.com. We look forward to being back with you next week. For all of us here, thanks for watching Wildcat Week.